I poured every dime into my daughter's $1 million wedding, only to be kicked out like trash because of the work boots on my feet. But when the truth about my 25 years of sacrifice came to light, the betrayers got a reality check they'll never forget. If this story hits you in the feels, smash that like button, share it with your loved ones, and subscribe so you don't miss our next gripping tale. You ever wonder if love can blind you to the knife waiting in the dark? That's where I was standing in my modest Spokane home, getting ready for my daughter Lily's wedding. I'm Robert Hayes, just a regular guy who's spent 25 years swinging hammers and signing checks to give my little girl a life I never had. A widower, a construction company owner, a father who thought love meant giving everything. But let me tell you, friend, sometimes you pour your heart out only to find it wasn't enough. It was a crisp March morning in 2025, the kind of day where the air feels clean, full of promise. I stood in front of my cracked bedroom mirror, fumbling with a tie I hadn't touched since my own wedding to Anna. God rest her soul. The suit was new, bought special for today, but my old work boots, polished to a shine, stayed on my feet. They're scuffed, sure, but they've carried me through decades of pouring concrete and climbing scaffolds to keep Hayes Construction going. I caught my reflection, a guy who'd traded dreams for his kid's future. Hell, these boots are me, I thought. Lily won't mind, or so I hoped. In my hands was a small gift box, wrapped in plain white paper tied with a ribbon Anna would have loved. Inside was a locket, $2,000, a chunk of my savings, holding a photo of Anna from the day we brought Lily home from the hospital. Anna's smile in that picture, bright, fierce, like she could take on the world, got me through the dark days after cancer took her when Lily was 3. I wanted Lily to have it today, to carry her mom with her as she started her new life. My chest tightened as I slipped the box into my pocket. "This is for you, sweetheart," I whispered. My mind drifted back to a memory that still warms me even now. Lily was 8, all gap-toothed and glowing, running off the stage after her school play. She threw her arms around me, her costume crinkling, and squealed, "Daddy, you're my hero. I'd skipped a big contract meeting to be there, lost a deal that could have paid for a new truck, but her hug made it worth it." Anna used to help Lily bake cookies for me after those long workdays, giggling as they made a mess in the kitchen, saying it was their way of saying thanks. Anna's voice echoed that night, "Robert, don't let Lily forget what sacrifice means." I thought I'd honored her words, giving Lily everything: private schools, college cars, a life beyond the Spokane trailer park I grew up in. But looking back, maybe I gave too much. This wedding was my crowning moment. 300 grand, every penny from my own pocket. The dress alone cost $15,000, a shimmering thing Lily said was non-negotiable for her big day. The chandelier-lit ballroom at the Spokane Grand Hotel. 3 months of my company's profits. I didn't blink when Lily's fiancé, Ethan Carter, and his high society mother, Margaret, pushed for the best of everything. It's for Lily's happiness, I told myself, signing check after check. In Spokane, where old money looks down on folks like me who smell of sawdust and sweat, I wanted Lily to shine, to belong. That morning, Lily called me, her voice tight. "Dad, you're wearing a nice suit, right? Ethan's mom is particular about appearances." I laughed it off, said, "Don't worry, sweetheart. I clean up okay, but it stung like a paper cut. You don't notice until it burns." Was she worried I'd embarrass her? I pushed the thought aside, climbing into my beat-up pickup truck, the one I'd driven since Lily was in diapers. As I started the engine, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Be careful with Ethan Carter. He's not what you think." I frowned, my thumb hovering over the screen. Who was this? A disgruntled client. A prank. I checked the phone again, number blocked. Last week, Ethan had asked about my company's profits, too eager for a guy who barely knew me. Was it connected? My gut twisted, but I shook it off. Today's Lily's day, I thought, tossing the phone onto the passenger seat. Driving through Spokane's streets, I passed sleek BMWs and Teslas that belonged to the Carter's world. My truck stuck out like a sore thumb, but I didn't care. I'd built Hayes Construction from nothing. 60 employees, city contracts, a reputation for getting the job done. I wasn't ashamed of my calloused hands or the dirt under my nails. I thought Lily wasn't either. She'd grown up watching me work, late nights, seen me skip vacations to pay her tuition at Riverside Academy, then Northwestern. Every sacrifice was for her smile, for the life Anna and I dreamed she'd have. I pictured her today, radiant in that dress, maybe giving me a hug like she did when she was little. Maybe she'll say thanks. I hoped, a lump forming in my throat. The Spokane Grand Hotel loomed ahead, its Gothic spires cutting into the gray sky. I parked in the far corner of the lot, away from the luxury cars that screamed wealth I'd never chase. My boots crunched on the gravel as I walked toward the entrance, gift box in hand, heart full of pride. I could hear the string quartet, the clink of champagne glasses, the murmur of guests who probably made more in a month than I did in a year. This was Lily's world now, and I'd built it for her. But as I stepped toward the ballroom doors, that text flashed in my mind again. He's not what you think. What was Ethan hiding? I pushed the thought down, focusing on the moment. I was here for my daughter, to see her walk into her future. But let me tell you, friend, in a few minutes, my world would crack open, and the love I'd poured into Lily would be thrown back in my face like dust. If this story's hitting you where it hurts, give it a like, share it with someone who gets it, and subscribe for more. Let's keep going. You ever have someone you love look at you like you're nothing? Like all the years you poured your heart out just vanished in a single breath? That's what hit me when I walked into the Spokane Grand Hotel's ballroom, clutching a gift box for my daughter Lily. I'm Robert Hayes, a guy who's spent 25 years breaking my back to give my kid everything. I thought I'd built her a world where she'd always want me by her side. But in one moment, friend, she tore that world apart, and it cut deeper than I could have imagined. The ballroom was like something out of a dream I didn't belong in. Crystal chandeliers threw rainbow flecks across walls that cost me 3 months of Hayes Construction's profits to rent. The air was thick with expensive perfume, and Lily's $15,000 dress shimmered like it was woven from starlight. Guests in designer gowns and $1,000 suits sipped champagne, their laughter mingling with the soft hum of a string quartet I'd paid for. My work boots, polished to a shine, felt like anchors on the marble floor. In my pocket, the locket I'd bought for Lily, $2,000, with a picture of her mom. Anna felt heavier still. I'd pictured this moment 100 times, handing it to her, seeing her smile, maybe getting one of those hugs she gave me when she was little. But the second I stepped through those double doors, I felt the weight of every eye in the room. Lily turned her smile, freezing as she saw me. Her green eyes, Anna's eyes, flickered with panic before turning cold, like a door slamming shut. She crossed the room in a rustle of silk, her hands trembling slightly, as if she was fighting something inside. Her fiancé, Ethan Carter, and his mother, Margaret, followed close behind their faces, a mask of polished arrogance. Ethan's tuxedo screamed money, and Margaret's diamond earrings could have paid my crew for a month. I forced a smile, holding up the gift box. "Sweetheart," I said, my voice steady, despite the knot in my gut. "I just wanted to give you this and say congrats to you and Ethan." Lily stopped short, her eyes darting to the guests, then back to me. She hesitated, her lips parting like she wanted to say something else, but then her voice came out sharp and low. "Dad, I'm sorry, but you weren't invited. You don't belong here." The words hit like a punch to the chest, knocking the air out of me. I stood there, the locket box shaking in my hand as the room's chatter faded to a dull buzz. Belong? I'd paid for every damn thing in this place. The dress, the champagne, the flowers that cost more than my truck. 25 years of overtime, skipped vacations and empty savings accounts all for her, and now I didn't belong. I reached out to hand her the locket, hoping she'd see what it meant. But she flinched, snatching it from my hand and setting it on a table like it was junk.
"This isn't the time, Dad,"
she said, her voice tight, her eyes fixed on the floor. Ethan stepped forward, his smile sharp as a blade. "Mr. Hayes, there's been a misunderstanding," he said, smooth as silk, but his eyes held no warmth. Margaret's lips curled into a smirk that sent a chill down my spine. "This is a private family affair," she said, her voice dripping with that old money superiority. "Immediate family only." The room seemed to shrink. Guests were staring now, whispering behind crystal flutes. A woman in pearls leaned toward her husband, her eyes flicking to my boots like they were proof I didn't belong. My boots, the ones that had carried me through decades of building houses for folks like them. I looked at Lily, searching for the girl who used to climb into my lap, begging for one more bedtime story. But she stood there, her face a mix of shame and defiance, refusing to meet my gaze. I waited, hoping she'd take it back, say it was a mistake. But her silence was louder than any words, and it broke something inside me. "I see," I said, my voice quieter than I meant, but steady as steel. I turned to leave my boots echoing on the marble like gunshots in the silence. As I passed Ethan and Margaret, I caught them exchanging a glance, quick but deliberate, before Ethan leaned in and whispered, "Everything's going according to plan." My blood ran cold. Plan. What the hell were they playing at? That text from this morning flashed in my mind. "Be careful with Ethan Carter. He's not what you think." Was this what it meant? Had they set me up to humiliate me? As I walked out, Anna's voice echoed in my head, soft but clear. "Lily will always need you, Robert." But the girl in that ballroom, she wasn't my Lily anymore. The doors closed behind me, heavy as a vault sealing off the world I'd built for her. Outside, the spring air hit me like a slap, sharp and cold. The parking lot stretched out, filled with sleek cheeks that screamed wealth I'd never chase. My old pickup sat alone in the far corner, right where it belonged in their eyes. I leaned against the truck, my hands shaking, as I gripped the door handle. 25 years, bedtime stories, school, plays, college tuition, gone. In one sentence. You don't belong here. I'd given up my own dreams, my retirement, my chance at a life beyond work, all for her. And now I was just an embarrassment, a guy in work boots who didn't fit. My mind flashed to last month when Ethan came by my office all smiles asking about my company's profits. Just curious, he'd said, but his eyes were too sharp, too hungry. And Lily's call this morning worrying about my suit, had she been part of this? The pieces were starting to form a picture, and I didn't like it one bit. My heart was a mess, anger, hurt, betrayal all tangled up, but I wasn't about to let it break me. I'd built Hayes Construction from nothing, raised a daughter alone after losing Anna. I'd faced worse than a room full of snobs. Whatever Ethan and Margaret were scheming, whatever Lily had let herself become, I wasn't done yet. I climbed into my truck, the familiar creak of the seat grounding me. My fingers found my phone steady despite the ache in my chest. That whisper, that text, they were clues. and I was damn well going to find out what they meant. But that's a story for the next step, friend. If this hits you where it hurts, give it a like, share it with someone who gets it, and subscribe for more. Let's keep going. Ever feel a hurt so raw it sparks something fierce inside you, burning away the pain until all that's left is a cold, hard resolve? That's where I was sitting in my old pickup truck outside the Spokane Grand Hotel, my daughter Lily's betrayal cutting deeper than any knife. I'm Robert Hayes, a guy who's spent 25 years pouring concrete and heart into building a life for my kid, only to have her tell me I didn't belong at her wedding, the one I bankrolled. Her words, "You don't belong here," echoed in my head, right alongside Ethan's whisper to his mother. "Margaret, everything's going according to plan." What plan? I didn't have the full picture yet. But I'll tell you, friend, I wasn't about to let them play me for a fool. Sometimes you don't just take a hit, you hit back, and you make it count. The spring air was sharp, slicing through the open window of my truck as I leaned against the worn leather seat. My hands still trembled from the walk out of that ballroom where Lily had snatched the locket. Anna's picture, my heart, and tossed it aside like it was nothing. Her cold eyes, Ethan's razor-sharp smile, Margaret's smirk, they burned in my mind. I'd poured $300,000 into that wedding, $15,000 alone for her dress, and they'd thrown me out like I was dirt on their polished floors. But I've been in construction for 25 years, friend. You don't build a company from nothing without learning how to stand your ground. Those work boots they sneered at, they'd carried me through worse than a room full of snobs. I pulled out my phone, my fingers steady now, and scrolled to First National Bank Business Services. Years ago, when I signed the contracts for this wedding, I'd added a clause, call it a builder's instinct after too many deals gone south. If I, the client, wasn't treated with respect, I could pull the plug on payments, no questions asked. It was my safety net, my way of keeping control, in a world that loves to spit on guys like me. "Patricia," I said when the bank answered, my voice calm as a slab of concrete. "This is Robert Hayes, account number 7794512. I need to stop all payments for the Carter-Hayes wedding effective now." A pause hung heavy on the line, like the moment before a wrecking ball drops. "Mr. Hayes." "That's a big move," Patricia said, her keyboard clicking fast. "Can you verify the details?" I rattled off my social security number, my mother's maiden name, and the authorization codes I'd memorized like the specs of a blueprint. Every vendor, florist, caterer, string quartet was tied to my account. Venue, catering, flowers, music. I listed my voice flat. "Stop them all." Patricia's tone tightened. "These are major transactions, sir." "You're sure?" I glanced at the hotel's glowing windows, picturing Lily in her shimmering dress, clueless about the storm coming. "Dead sure," I said. Things have changed. As I hung up, I could almost see the chaos unfolding inside. Bellingham Blooms would be ripping out their $10,000 orchids, yanking centerpieces right off the tables. Elegant Affairs would be hauling away their silver trays before the main course hit. The string quartet would pack up their violins, leaving nothing but stunned silence. Guests in their fancy suits and gowns would freeze champagne glasses dangling in their hands. Lily would be scrambling her perfect day, crumbling like a bad foundation. My phone buzzed her name on the screen once, twice, 3 times. I let it ring, the sound cutting through the quiet of the parking lot like a warning bell. She'd made her choice. Now she'd live with it. My mind drifted back to a day 9 years ago when Lily was 16, standing in our driveway, pouting at the Honda Civic I'd bought her. "Dad, everyone else has a BMW." She'd whined, her voice sharp with teenage scorn. This is embarrassing. That car cost me $18,000 paid for with double shifts and skipped lunches. Anna's voice had rung in my head then too. Teach her to value your work, Robert. I thought I had, but I was wrong. That was the first time I saw it. The shift in her eyes measuring me against her rich friends at Riverside Academy. I should have drawn a line then, but love blinds you, doesn't it? I kept giving thinking it'd keep her close. Instead, it built a wall I couldn't see until now. As I sat there, engine idling, I overheard two catering staff lugging trays to their van nearby. One muttered, "The groom knew Hayes was footing the bill. I saw him talking to our boss last week, making sure it was all on Hayes." My grip tightened on the steering wheel, knuckles white. Ethan knew. That whisper in the ballroom, "Everything's going according to plan," suddenly felt heavier, darker. The text from this morning flashed in my mind. "Be careful with Ethan Carter. He's not what you think." Was this his game? Using me to bankroll his perfect wedding. The pieces were snapping together, and they painted an ugly picture. Through the hotel's windows, I caught a glimpse of movement. White-clad staff rushing in, probably the florists starting their sweep. Then, I heard a sharp voice, unmistakable, even from the parking lot. Margaret barking at a worker. "This is unacceptable. Get your manager." Her composure was cracking, and I couldn't help but feel a grim satisfaction. Let her squirm. Let them all feel the weight of what they'd done. My phone buzzed again, Lily calling for the fourth time. I let it go to voicemail, picturing her in that $15,000 dress, surrounded by guests, whispering as their perfect night fell apart. 25 years of building houses, dreams a life for Lily had taught me one thing: you don't win by getting mad. You win by getting smart. I'd spent $937,000 on her school car's college, this damn wedding, every dollar a brick in the world I thought she'd cherish. But they'd torn it down, humiliated me in front of their fancy crowd. Now I'd show them what happens when you kick a man who's spent his life lifting others up. This wasn't revenge, friend. This was justice, plain and simple. I started the truck, the engine rumbling like the fire in my chest. Ethan's plan, whatever it was, had just hit a brick wall, and I was only getting started. But that's a story for the next step. If this hits you where it hurts, give it a like, share it with someone who gets it, and subscribe for more. Let's keep going. You ever sit down with your life spread out in front of you, receipts and all, and realize you've been carrying someone else's dreams on your back? That's where I was, friend hunched over my kitchen table in Spokane, the sting of Lily's betrayal still burning like a fresh cut. I'm Robert Hayes, a guy who's spent 25 years building homes and a future for my daughter, only to have her slam the door on me at her own wedding, the one I paid for. After pulling the plug on that $300,000 circus and watching it crumble from the parking lot, I knew this fight wasn't over. Ethan's whisper. Everything's going according to plan, and that caterer's words about him, knowing I'd foot the bill, they were clues to a game I was done playing blind. Let me tell you, when you've been kicked down, the only way up is to arm yourself with the truth. The quiet of my house felt like a weight as I opened the old filing cabinet in my office, its drawers packed with 25 years of my life with Lily. Each folder was a piece of my heart. Every sacrifice, every dollar I'd scraped together for her. I started with the big one, Lily, education. Nearly $1 million over the years, $420,000 for private school and Northwestern, $80,000 for cars, $150,000 for her fancy Lincoln Park apartment, and $300,000 for that damn wedding with its $15,000 dress. I ran my fingers over the receipts, each one a choice, her future over mine, her dreams over my own. The total hit me like a brick, $937,000. Almost $1 million poured into a life she'd thrown back in my face. My mind drifted to Anna, my wife gone too soon when Lily was 3. I could still see her in our old kitchen, her hands dusted with flour, as she helped Lily save her allowance to buy me a birthday tie. "Don't let Lily forget the value of your work, Robert," she'd said, her voice soft but steady. "She needs to know what it costs." Back then, Lily would giggle proud of her $5 gift. But I'd given her too much, hadn't I? Private schools, BMWs, trips to Italy. She'd stopped earning, stopped valuing. Had I failed Anna's warning, built a princess who forgot the price of a hammer? The thought twisted like a knot in my gut, but regret wouldn't fix this. I needed a plan, and I needed it now. I grabbed my phone and called Sarah Mitchell, my lawyer, a woman who'd seen me through enough contract disputes to know I didn't mess around. "Sarah," I said, my voice calm but heavy, "I need you to document every dollar I've spent on Lily. $937,000. If it comes to it, we'll call it a loan." Sarah's tone sharpened. "Robert, that's a hell of a move. You're talking about suing your own daughter. You sure you're ready to risk losing her for good?" Her words hit hard like a nail driven too deep. Lose Lily. The thought made my chest ache, but I couldn't let her and Ethan tear down my name. "I'm not out to hurt her," I said, "but she needs to learn what she threw away. And I need to protect what's left of me." Sarah agreed to meet me the next morning, promising a strategy that'd hit like a legal sledgehammer, if it came to that. As I hung up my phone, buzzed not Lily, but Tom Reynolds, an old buddy from my construction days, who now ran the Spokane Chronicle, a small local paper. "Robert," he said, his voice low and urgent, "I've got something on Ethan Carter. An email where he bragged about locking in your money for the wedding. Can you meet me tonight at the diner on Division Street?" My pulse kicked up a notch. "What kind of email?" I asked. Tom hesitated, then said, "The kind that shows he's not the golden boy he plays. It's big. Trust me." I leaned back the kitchen lamp, casting long shadows across the folders. An email. Was this tied to that text warning me about Ethan? To his whisper in the ballroom? To the caterer's words about him knowing I'd pay? The pieces were starting to snap together, and they weren't pretty. I stood up, my work boots thumping on the hardwood floor, the same boots they'd sneered at in that ballroom. Lily's betrayal had cracked something in me, but it hadn't broken me. I'd spent 25 years building houses, a business, a life for my daughter. If she and Ethan thought they could drag my name through the mud, they were about to learn I wasn't just some guy in work boots. Those folders weren't just receipts. They were proof of a love Lily had forgotten. A truth I was ready to wield like a hammer. I grabbed my jacket, my resolve hardening like concrete poured fresh. Tom's call was a spark, and I was ready to light a fire. Whatever Ethan was hiding, I'd dig it up. And when I did, I'd make sure the world saw it for what it was. But that's a story for the next step, friend. If this hits you where it hurts, give it a like, share it with someone who gets it, and subscribe for more. Let's keep going. Ever feel like the world you built is being torn down by the people you trusted most, and all you can do is watch the lies spread like wildfire? That's where I was. Friend sitting in a dimly lit diner on Division Street. The weight of Lily's betrayal and Ethan's scheming pressing on my chest. I'm Robert Hayes, a man who's spent 25 years pouring my heart into my daughter, only to have her call me cruel to save her own skin. After pulling the plug on her $300,000 wedding and digging through a lifetime of receipts to prove my sacrifices, I thought I'd hit rock bottom. But when Lily and Ethan started spinning lies to bury my name, I realized this fight was just getting started. Let me tell you, when folks try to drag you through the mud, you don't just sit there, you dig in and fight back. The diner smelled of coffee and grease, the kind of place where guys like me feel at home, not like that chandelier-lit ballroom where I'd been kicked out. My work boots tapped the cracked linoleum floor as I waited for Tom Reynolds, my old construction buddy, who'd called with a promise of evidence on Ethan Carter. My phone sat heavy in my pocket, buzzing with notifications I didn't want to see. Lily had taken to social media, posting a photo of herself in that $15,000 dress, tears in her eyes, with a caption that cut like a knife. My father ruined my wedding out of spite. A cruel man who never loved me. Cruel me. The guy who'd spent $937,000 on her school cars, apartments, that damn wedding. My stomach churned, but I kept my cool, sipping burnt coffee as the words sank in. It wasn't just Lily. Ethan and his mother, Margaret, were working the high society circuit, spreading poison through Spokane's elite. At the country club, Margaret had been whispering to her golf buddies that I'd lost my mind, that I'd sabotaged my own daughter's wedding because I couldn't handle her marrying up. Ethan, meanwhile, was schmoozing with local business bigwigs, hinting that Hayes Construction was unstable, that I was a loose cannon. By noon, my phone was ringing off the hook. Bob Martinez, a contractor I'd worked with for 20 years, called to say he was concerned about a city contract we were bidding on together. "People are talking, Robert," he said, his voice tight. "They're saying you're not yourself." Then Dave, my foreman, texted about a subcontractor pulling out of a project, citing rumors about my reliability. The ground was shifting under me, and it felt like I was standing alone. I leaned back in the diner booth, the vinyl creaking under me, and thought about Anna. She'd always said, "Don't let the world make you small, Robert." When Lily was 5, Anna taught her to save her pennies to buy me a cheap tie for Father's Day, a lesson in gratitude. That tie still hung in my closet, a reminder of the girl who'd once looked at me like I hung the moon. Now that girl was calling me cruel to 1,000 strangers online, and it hurt worse than any punch I'd ever taken. Had I raised her so wrong that she'd turn on me like this, or was Ethan pulling the strings using her to protect his own image? The thought of his smug whisper, "Everything's going according to plan," made my blood boil, but I kept it locked down. Getting mad wouldn't fix this. Getting smart would. Just then, Tom slid into the booth across from me, his weathered face serious under the diner's fluorescent lights. He didn't waste time. "Robert, I got an email from a guy who used to work for Carter's firm," he said, sliding his phone across the table. "It's Ethan bragging to a buddy about locking in your money for the wedding. Says he knew you'd pay for it all, even pushed Lily to up the budget. He's getting a kickback from a rival construction company for steering business their way." I stared at the screen, my jaw tight. The email was short but damning. "Hayes is a sap. Got him to bankroll the whole thing. Secured a nice bonus with the vendors." My hands clenched into fists. That text warning me about Ethan. The caterer's words, his whisper in the ballroom, it all clicked. Ethan wasn't just a snob. He was a snake using my daughter to line his pockets. "Does this hold up?" I asked, my voice low but steady. Tom nodded. "The guy who sent, it's willing to go public, but he's nervous. Needs to know you're in." In hell, I was all in. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about showing the world who Ethan really was. I thought back to Sarah Mitchell, my lawyer, and the plan we'd started that morning. Those folders, that $937,000 in receipts, were my armor. Ethan and Lily could spread their lies, but I had the truth, and it was heavier than their gossip. "Tell him I'm in," I said, "and let's set up a press conference. I want this out there, Tom." As I drove home, the Spokane skyline twinkling in the dusk, I felt the isolation creeping in. Friends I'd known for decades were questioning me. Contracts I'd worked years to secure were slipping away. Lily's post had racked up hundreds of shares, each comment a jab. What kind of father does that poor girl betrayed by her own dad? Every word was a lie, but lies spread faster than truth in this town. Still, I wasn't broken. I'd built Hayes Construction from a toolbox and a dream, raised a daughter alone after losing Anna. If Lily and Ethan thought they could bury me, they were about to learn I wasn't the type to stay down. Those receipts, Sarah's legal plan, Tom's email, they were my weapons, and I was ready to fight. I pulled into my driveway, the engine ticking as it cooled. My boots hit the gravel steady as ever, the same boots they'd sneered at. Ethan's plan was unraveling, and I'd make sure it came apart at the seams. But that's a story for the next step, friend. If this hits you where it hurts, give it a like, share it with someone who gets it, and subscribe for more. Let's keep going. You ever have that moment when the fog clears and you see someone for who they really are, like a mask slipping off in the light? That's where I was, friend sitting across from Tom Reynolds in a greasy diner on Division Street, staring at an email that turned my daughter's wedding into a con. I'm Robert Hayes, a guy who's spent 25 years building a life for Lily, only to have her and her fiancé Ethan Carter try to bury my name with lies. After pulling the plug on their $300,000 wedding and digging through $937,000 worth of receipts to prove my sacrifices, I thought I'd seen the worst. But when Tom showed me proof of Ethan's game, it wasn't just betrayal. It was a calculated stab in the back. Let me tell you, when the truth comes out, it hits harder than any hammer I've ever swung. The diner's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a harsh glow on Tom's phone as he slid it across the table. My coffee sat untouched, cold, as the anger simmering in my chest. Lily's social media post calling me a cruel father still burned in my mind, along with Ethan and Margaret's whispers at their fancy country club painting me as a nutcase who'd lost his grip. But Tom's call last night had lit a spark promising evidence that Ethan wasn't the golden boy he played. "Read this," Tom said, his voice low like he was handing me a loaded gun. The email was from a guy named Mark, a former employee at Carter Enterprises, Ethan's family firm. It was short, brutal. Hayes is a sap. Got him to bankroll the whole wedding, $300,000, no questions asked. Pushed Lily to up the budget. Secured a 10% kickback with the vendors and a side deal with Jenkins Construction. I read it twice, my jaw so tight it ached. Ethan had known Lily depended on me, had pushed her to demand more fancier flowers, a bigger venue, that damn $15,000 dress, all to line his pockets. The caterer's words from the wedding echoed. The groom knew Hayes was footing the bill. That text, warning me about Ethan, his whisper in the ballroom, everything's going according to plan. It all clicked. Ethan wasn't just a snob looking down on my work boots. He was a snake using my daughter to milk me dry while cutting deals with my competitors. My hands clenched, the coffee mug trembling in my grip. I'd spent $937,000 on Lily's life, and this guy turned it into a hustle. My mind flashed back to a month ago when Ethan stopped by my office, all smiles and slick charm. "Just curious about your business, Robert," he'd said, asking about my contracts, my profits, my plans for Hayes Construction. I'd thought he was trying to connect, maybe respect the work I did. Hell, I'd even felt a flicker of pride, thinking my daughter's fiancé cared. But now I saw it, those sharp eyes, that too smooth grin. He wasn't bonding. He was fishing, sizing me up like a mark. I'd been played, and worse, he'd used Lily to do it. Was she in on it, or just another pawn in his game? The thought made my stomach twist, but I pushed it down. Right now, Ethan was the target. This hold water. I asked Tom, my voice steady despite the fire in my chest. He nodded, leaning forward. Mark's ready to go public, but he's scared. Ethan's family has pull in this town, country clubs, charity boards, you name it. Mark needs to know you're all in. All in. I'd been all in since the moment Lily told me I didn't belong. Those folders back home packed with receipts were my proof. $420,000 for her education, $80,000 for cars, $150,000 for her apartment, $300,000 for the wedding. I'd given everything, and Ethan had turned it into a scam. I'm in, I said, my voice like gravel. But we're not just going public. We're doing it big. Set up a press conference, Tom. I want the whole damn town to see this. Tom's eyes lit up the way they used to when we'd pull an all-nighter to meet a construction deadline. I can get the Chronicle behind it, he said. Local TV, too. But Robert, this'll stir things up. You sure the community will back you? I leaned back, the diner's vinyl booth creaking under me. Would they? Spokane was a small town at heart, and I'd spent 25 years building houses, hiring locals, shaking hands. But Ethan's family had deep roots, old money, and connections that could sway opinions. Lily's post was still racking up shares, hundreds of strangers calling me a monster. Could I turn the tide? I didn't know, but I'd be damned if I let their lies win without a fight. I thought of Anna, my wife gone too soon when Lily was 3. She'd sit me down after a long day, her hands warm on mine, and say, "Your work is your honor, Robert. Don't let anyone take that from you." I'd built Hayes Construction from nothing, 60 employees, city contracts, a reputation for getting the job done. Ethan and Lily could spread their poison, but I had the truth, and it was heavier than their gossip. Those receipts weren't just numbers, they were my life, my love, my sacrifice. And now, with Tom's email, I had a weapon to show the world who Ethan really was. As I left the diner, the Spokane night was cool, the skyline twinkling like it was holding its breath. My boots hit the pavement steady as ever, the same boots they'd sneered at in that ballroom. Lily's betrayal. Ethan's scheme. Margaret's smug whispers. They'd tried to bury me, but I wasn't the type to stay down. I'd spent my life building, and now I'd build my case brick by brick until the truth stood taller than their lies. The press conference was my next move, and I was ready to swing. But would Spokane stand with me? Or would Ethan's connections pull the rug out from under me? That's a story for the next step, friend. If this hits you where it hurts, give it a like. Share it with someone who gets it and subscribe for more. Let's keep going. Ever feel that moment when you lay all your cards on the table and the truth hits so hard it silences the room? That's where I was, friend, standing in a small conference room at the Spokane Chronicle, ready to show the world who I really am. I'm Robert Hayes, a guy who's spent 25 years building a life for my daughter Lily, only to have her and her fiancé, Ethan Carter, try to bury my name with lies. After uncovering Ethan's scheme using my money to line his pockets, while Lily called me cruel online, I'd had enough. With $937,000 in receipts and an email proving Ethan's con. I was done playing defense. Let me tell you, when you've been dragged through the mud, sometimes the only way to stand tall is to let the truth do the talking. The room was packed: local reporters, a couple of TV cameras, and folks from Spokane's construction community who'd known me for decades. My work boots felt heavy on the worn carpet, the same boots Lily and her high society crowd had sneered at. On the table in front of me sat my folders thick with 25 years of proof, $937,000 spent on Lily, $420,000 for her private school and Northwestern, $80,000 for cars, $150,000 for her fancy apartment, $300,000 for that wedding with its $15,000 dress. Each receipt was a piece of my heart, a sacrifice for a daughter who'd called me a monster to save her own image. Tom Reynolds, my old buddy and editor of the Chronicle, stood beside me, his face grim but steady. He'd set up this press conference, and his paper was about to drop a bombshell, an article with Mark's email exposing Ethan's kickback deal with Jenkins Construction. I took a deep breath, my voice calm but firm as I started. I'm Robert Hayes, owner of Hayes Construction. For 25 years, I've given everything for my daughter Lily, $937,000 to be exact. School cars, her wedding. But when she told me I didn't belong at that wedding, I stopped the payments. Not out of spite, but because I deserve respect. I opened the folders, spreading out bank statements and receipts like a blueprint of my life. The room went quiet, cameras clicking as I held up a statement. $52,000 for 1 year at Northwestern. This is what I gave her, I said. And this, I held up a printout of Lily's post calling me cruel, is what she gave me back. Tom stepped up, his voice steady, as he read from the Chronicle's article. 10 years ago, Robert skipped a $200,000 teaser contract to attend Lily's school play. He was there for every moment, every sacrifice. But Ethan Carter saw him as a mark. He held up Mark's email, Hayes is a sap. Got him to bankroll the whole wedding, $300,000. Secured a 10% kickback with the vendors. A murmur rippled through the room. I watched the reporters' faces shift, shock, then anger. I didn't need to say much more. The truth was doing the work for me. My mind drifted to that school play Lily at 10, beaming as she ran to me after her performance. "You saw me, Daddy?" She had asked, her eyes bright with pride. I'd lost a contract that day, but her smile was worth it. Now that same girl was smearing my name online, egged on by Ethan and his mother, Margaret, who'd spread lies at their country club about me losing my mind. The memory stung, but I kept my cool, letting the receipts and Tom's article speak louder than any outburst could. I'd built my life on hard work, not hot air, and I wasn't about to start shouting now. By the time the press conference ended, the tide was turning. My phone started buzzing, not with accusations this time, but with support. Bob Martinez, my contractor friend who'd questioned me yesterday, called first. "Robert, I owe you an apology," he said, his voice thick. "I saw the numbers, the email. Nobody knew what you'd given her. I'm back in on the city contract. Dave, my foreman, texted, 'The crew's got your back, boss. Nobody's buying their BS anymore.' Even the Spokane Rotary Club president sent a message. 'Your integrity speaks for itself. We're behind you.' The construction community guys who'd swung hammers alongside me for years rallied like family. They knew what it meant to build something real, not just a facade like Ethan's. But then came the question I wasn't ready for. A young reporter, notepad in hand, stood up. "Mr. Hayes, are you going to sue Lily for the $937,000? Is this about getting your money back?" The room went still. Every eye on me. I thought of Sarah Mitchell's warning yesterday. Suing her could mean losing her for good. My chest tightened, the image of Lily at 5 giving me that Father's Day tie flashing in my mind. Sue her. The idea made my stomach churn, but so did her lies, her betrayal. Lily needs to learn what responsibility means. I said, my voice steady but heavy. This isn't about money. It's about truth. What she does next is up to her. The words hung in the air, and I could feel the question burning. What would Lily do? As I left the room, reporters still scribbling, I felt a weight lift, not all the way, but enough. My name, my honor. The things Anna had told me to protect were standing tall again. The truth had done its job, cutting through Lily's post, and Ethan's lies like a buzz saw. But part of me wondered if Spokane would fully stand with me, or if Ethan's old money connections would push back. Would Lily double down, or would she start to see the hole she'd dug? I didn't know yet. But I'd spent 25 years building houses, a business, a life for my daughter. I wasn't about to let their lies tear it down. I stepped outside, my boots hitting the pavement steady as ever. The Spokane skyline glowed in the evening light, and for the first time in days, I felt like I was on solid ground. The truth was out, and it was a foundation nobody could shake. But what would Lily do when she saw it? That's a story for the next step, friend. If this hits you where it hurts, give it a like, share it with someone who gets it, and subscribe for more. Let's keep going. You ever see someone hit rock bottom and realize the only way out is to face the truth about themselves? That's where my daughter Lily was, friend alone in a hotel room, her world crumbling faster than a bad foundation. I'm Robert Hayes, a guy who's spent 25 years building a life for her, only to have her call me cruel to save face after I pulled the plug on her $300,000 wedding. After I laid out the truth, $937,000, in receipts and Ethan's dirty email at a press conference, Spokane started to see me for who I was. But Lily. She was about to learn what it costs to turn your back on the one person who's always had yours. Let me tell you, when the lies you've leaned on collapse, sometimes it's the words of someone long gone that pull you back to reality. I was back in my Spokane home, the quiet settling in after the press conference storm. My phone was still buzzing with support contractors, old friends, even the Rotary Club rallying behind me. But my heart was heavy. Lily's post. Those words calling me a monster still stung like a fresh cut. I'd shown the world the truth. But what about her? Would she dig in deeper? Or would she see what she'd done? I didn't know yet. But the weight of 25 years, every dollar, every sacrifice was still on my shoulders as I sat in my office, staring at the empty chair where Lily used to curl up as a kid. Across town, Lily was alone in a room at the Spokane Grand Hotel, the same place where she'd told me I didn't belong. Her phone was silent now, no more likes or shares on her tearful post. Her friends, those sorority sisters who'd cheered her lavish lifestyle, had ghosted her, their texts unanswered after my receipts hit the news. Ethan, her new husband, was nowhere to be found. I heard later from a mutual acquaintance that Margaret, his mother, had laid into him at a family meeting. "She's a liability, Ethan." Margaret had snapped, her voice cold as ice. "A financial disaster. You need to cut her loose." Ethan didn't fight it. He packed his bags, left Lily with an unpaid hotel bill, and walked out, leaving her to face the wreckage alone. No ring, no husband, no friends, just a $15,000 dress hanging in the closet, like a ghost of her perfect day. Lily sat on the edge of the hotel bed, her hands shaking as she opened an old suitcase she hadn't touched in years. Inside, buried under clothes, was a small leather journal. Anna's, my wife, her mother. Lily hadn't looked at it since she was a teenager, But now, with everything falling apart, she needed something to hold on to. She flipped it open, her fingers tracing Anna's neat handwriting. One entry dated a month before Anna's death stopped her cold. Robert will give you everything, Lily, because he loves you. But you have to learn to value it. His work, his heart, it's all for you. Don't ever forget what it costs him. Lily's breath caught tears spilling as she read on. I see you saving pennies for his Father's Day tie, and it makes me proud. Stay that girl, Lily. Stay grateful. She clutched the journal, sobbing the weight of her choices crashing down. She'd forgotten, that girl, forgotten me, forgotten the man who'd given her $937,000 school cars that damn wedding, because she'd been too busy chasing Ethan's world. Back in my office, my phone buzzed, Lily's name lighting up the screen for the first time since the wedding. My thumb hovered the memory of her snatching that locket, Anna's picture, still raw. I let it ring, picturing her in that hotel room alone, maybe finally seeing what she'd done. The voicemail chimed, and her voice came through broken, barely a whisper. Dad, I was wrong. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I didn't understand. I played it again, my chest tight. Was this real? Or just another plea to clean up her mess? I thought of Anna, how she'd believed in Lily's heart, how she'd trusted me to raise her right. Had I failed them both by giving too much? Or was this Lily's chance to find her way back? Lily's tears didn't stop as she sat there, journal in hand. She saw herself at 5, handing me that cheap tie, beaming with pride. She saw me at her school plays, her graduation, always there, always giving. And she saw herself at the wedding, pushing me away to please Ethan and Margaret, to fit into a world that didn't want her anymore. The truth hit her like a freight train. She'd traded her father's love for a lie, and now she was paying the price. She dialed my number again, her voice shaking but resolute. Dad, please, I was wrong. I want to make this right. I didn't pick up, not yet. I needed to know she meant it, that this wasn't just panic talking. Her world was collapsing, and for the first time, Lily felt the weight of her choices. No friends, no husband, no money, just a journal and a truth she couldn't ignore. She wasn't the victim she'd painted herself to be. She'd been selfish, ungrateful, and now she was alone. But something in Anna's words sparked a fire in her, small but real. She wanted to be that girl again, the one who saved pennies for her dad. She wanted to change, to earn back what she'd thrown away. But would I give her that chance? Would I trust her again? After everything, I sat back, my boots resting on the hardwood floor, the same boots they'd sneered at in that ballroom. Lily's voicemail played in my head, her voice cracking with regret. I'd spent 25 years building a life for her, and now she was starting to see what it cost. But trust, that was a foundation we'd have to rebuild brick by brick. I wasn't ready to answer her call, not yet. She needed to sit with her choices a little longer, to feel the weight of what she'd done. But deep down, I hoped that Anna's words, her love, could pull Lily back. That's a story for the next step, friend. If this hits you where it hurts, give it a like. Share it with someone who gets it, and subscribe for more. Let's keep going. You ever stand face to face with someone you love, knowing the truth? Between you could either break everything or build something new. That's where I was, friend, in a small Spokane courtroom, staring at my daughter Lily, across a divide wider than any I'd ever known. I'm Robert Hayes, a guy who's spent 25 years pouring my heart into her, only to have her call me cruel and try to bury my name. After laying out $937,000 of sacrifices at a press conference and exposing Ethan's con. I'd hoped Lily's voicemail, her broken "I was wrong," meant she was ready to face me. But when she refused to meet, to talk it out like family, I had no choice but to bring it to court. Let me tell you, sometimes justice isn't about winning. It's about giving someone a chance to grow, even if it hurts like hell. The courtroom smelled of old wood and tension, its benches half filled with reporters and a few curious locals. My work boots echoed on the floor, the same boots Lily had sneered at in that $300,000 ballroom I'd paid for. I sat at the plaintiff's table, my lawyer, Sarah Mitchell, beside me, a stack of folders in front of us, $937,000 in receipts, every dollar I'd spent on Lily's life, $420,000 for school, $80,000 for cars, $150,000 for her apartment, $300,000 for her wedding. I'd filed a claim to reclassify it all as a loan, not because I wanted the money, but because Lily needed to face the weight of what she'd thrown away. Across the room, Lily sat alone, her face pale, her $15,000 dress swapped for a plain blazer that looked borrowed. Ethan was there too, in a sharp suit, but his mother, Margaret, sat stiffly in the back, her eyes cold as ever. The judge, a gray-haired woman with a no-nonsense stare, called the room to order. Sarah stood laying out our case. For 25 years, Robert Hayes supported his daughter Lily with $937,000 documented here. When she publicly defamed him, he was forced to protect his reputation. She slid the folders forward, bank statements and receipts fanned out like evidence of a life. I didn't look at Lily, not yet. My chest was tight, Anna's voice echoing in my head. She needs to know what it costs Robert. Had I failed her by giving too much? Or could this courtroom be the place where Lily finally learned? When it was her turn, Lily stood, her hands trembling as she gripped the table. I was wrong, she said, her voice cracking. I treated my dad like a bank, not a father. I let Ethan and his family push me to fit in, to be someone I'm not. I'm sorry. Her eyes met mine, Anna's green eyes brimming with tears. For a moment I saw the girl who'd given me that cheap Father's Day tie, the one who'd saved pennies with her mom. But then I remembered her post calling me cruel and the lies she'd let Ethan and Margaret spread. My heart ached, but I kept my face steady, letting her words hang in the air. The room was silent, reporters scribbling, the judge watching closely. Ethan stood next, his voice smooth but shaky. Your Honor, this is a family dispute, not a legal one. I had no part in any scheme. He glanced at me, his eyes darting like a cornered animal. Sarah didn't miss a beat, holding up the email from Mark, the former Carter Enterprises employee. This email shows Ethan Carter knowingly exploited Mr. Hayes, securing kickbacks from wedding vendors and a rival construction firm. The judge's brow furrowed as she read it. Hayes is a sap. Got him to bankroll the whole thing. Ethan's face flushed, his lawyer whispering frantically, but the judge cut him off. Mr. Carter, this evidence contradicts your claim. Sit down. Margaret stood abruptly, her heels clicking as she stormed out, not sparing Lily a glance. The room buzzed, and I felt a grim satisfaction. Ethan's mask was off, and Margaret's cold exit said it all. The judge turned to me, her voice measured. Mr. Hayes, what are you seeking here? I stood, my boots grounding me, and looked at Lily. Her eyes were pleading, but I saw Anna in them too, urging me to do what was right. I don't want the money. I said, my voice low but firm. I want Lily to grow up to understand what she threw away when she turned her back on me. This isn't about dollars. It's about accountability. The judge nodded her pen, tapping the bench. I'm inclined to agree, she said. I'll defer judgment for 30 days. Ms. Hayes, You have that time to show you understand the gravity of your actions. Case adjourned. Lily's shoulders slumped, tears spilling, but she didn't look away. I felt a storm inside. Part of me wanted to run to her to wipe those tears like I did when she was 5. But another part, the part that had carried $937,000 worth of sacrifices, knew she needed this lesson. Anna's words from her journal. The ones Lily had read echoed in my mind. You have to learn to value it. I'd given her everything but trust. That was something she'd have to earn back. As I left the courtroom, reporters swarming, I wondered, could Lily change in 30 days? Could she become the girl Anna believed in? Or was this just another empty promise? I stepped outside, the Spokane air cool against my face, my boots steady on the pavement. The truth had done its work, exposing Ethan's scheme and Lily's mistakes. But justice wasn't just about winning in court. It was about giving Lily a chance to rebuild, even if it meant letting her fall first. Would she rise, or would she run? That's a story for the next step, friend. If this hits you where it hurts, give it a like, share it with someone who gets it, and subscribe for more. Let's keep going. You ever look at someone you love knowing they've hurt you deep and still find a sliver of hope that they can be better? That's where I was, friend, sitting in my quiet Spokane home, the echo of Lily's courtroom confession still ringing in my ears. I'm Robert Hayes, a guy who's spent 25 years building a life for my daughter, only to have her call me cruel and push me away. After laying out $937,000 of sacrifices and exposing Ethan's con in court, I heard Lily's broken voice. I treated my dad like a bank, not a father. It wasn't enough to erase the pain, but it was a start. Now, with the judge giving her 30 days to prove herself, I had to decide, could I give her one last chance to rebuild what she'd torn down? Let me tell you, sometimes love means drawing a hard line, but it also means leaving a door open, just a crack for redemption. The morning after the courtroom showdown, I sat at my kitchen table, the same one where I'd poured over those receipts $907,000, a lifetime of giving. My work boots rested on the hardwood, grounding me as I stared at my phone. Lily's voicemail from last week played in my head. Dad, I was wrong. I want to make this right. I'd let it sit unanswered, waiting to see if her words held weight. Sarah Mitchell. My lawyer had called right after the hearing, her voice steady but cautious. You've got options, Robert, she'd said. Keep the lawsuit or drop it and set terms. But if you give her a chance, make it clear she's gotta earn it. Sarah was right. I didn't want the money. I wanted Lily to grow up to be the girl Anna always believed she could be. I thought of Anna, my wife gone 25 years now. Her journal, the one Lily found, had changed everything. Robert will give you everything, but you have to learn to value it, she'd written. I could still see Anna teaching Lily to bake cookies for me, their laughter filling our old kitchen, saying it was love in every bite. That Lily, the one who'd saved pennies for a Father's Day tie, was still in there somewhere. But trust, that was a foundation we'd have to rebuild brick by brick. I picked up my phone and called Sarah. Drop the lawsuit. I said, my voice calm but firm. I'm giving Lily 1 week, $1,500 for the hotel and groceries. She finds a job, lives on her own dime, or she's on her own. Sarah paused, then said, That's fair, Robert, but you sure she'll step up? I wasn't sure, but I had to believe Anna's words could still reach her. Across town, Lily sat in her hotel room, the unpaid bill looming like a shadow. The $15,000 dress hung in the closet, a reminder of a life she'd chased and lost. Ethan was gone. His mother, Margaret's words, a liability cutting deeper than his abandonment. Her friends, once quick to like her, posts had vanished. But Anna's journal sat on the nightstand, its words burning in her mind. Stay grateful, Lily. She'd spent years taking my money, my love, without a second thought. $420,000 for school, $80,000 for cars, $300,000 for that wedding. Now alone, she saw it. Every dollar was my sweat, my sacrifice, my heart. She opened her laptop, hands shaking, and started searching for jobs. Any job, anything, to start over. The Spokane Grand Hotel needed a cleaner, $12 an hour. No experience required. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a start. She applied, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and resolve. A few days later, I got a text from Lily, short but heavy. Got a job cleaning at a coffee shop. I'll make you proud, Dad. I read it, my thumb hovering over the reply button. My mind flashed to her at 5, handing me that tie, her eyes bright with love. I wanted to believe her, but the sting of her betrayal, "You don't belong here," still lingered. I didn't reply, not yet. I needed to see her follow through to know this wasn't just another plea to fix her mess. I walked to my office, pulling out an old photo from a drawer, Lily at 8, grinning at her school play, me clapping in the front row. I smiled, a small flicker of hope warming my chest. Maybe, just maybe, she was finding her way back. That night I sat at my desk, the Spokane skyline twinkling through the window. The rain that had hung over the city all week had stopped, and a sliver of sunlight broke through the clouds, painting the room gold. I pulled out a notepad and started writing something I hadn't done since Anna died. Dear Anna, I wrote, my pen steady, our girl's learning to stand on her own. She's got a long road, but she's trying. I think you'd be proud. I set the pen down, my eyes stinging. I'd spent 25 years building a life for Lily, and now maybe she was starting to build one for herself. But would she keep her promise? Could we rebuild what we'd lost? Or was this just a fleeting spark? I leaned back, my boots still on the same ones they'd sneered at in that ballroom. The truth had done its work, exposing Ethan's lies and Lily's mistakes. Justice wasn't about punishing her. It was about giving her a chance to grow to be the daughter Anna always saw in her. I felt hope, fragile but real, like the first rays of sun after a storm. Whether Lily would hold to her word, whether we'd find our way back to each other, that was a story still unfolding. But for now, I'd given her the chance, and that was enough. That's where we'll leave it, friend. If this hits you where it hurts, give it a like. Share it with someone who gets it, and subscribe for more. Let's keep going.